Chapter objectives for today's sessions are this chapter is about how to understand and develop the customer relationships. So, we are going to learn customers, who are they, what are the benefits of retaining good customers, how can managers develop good customer relationships, and how can the managers develop good business relationships. We will start with the introduction. It should perhaps be self-evident that a text on service operations should include an examination of customers and customer relationships. That we have seen in the first chapter that service is a synonymous with the customer. Service is an activity, that is a process, which involves the treatment of customer or user or something belonging to them. Where the customer is involved, the problem and it performs some role. This is the service. So service operation managers need to know who all their services and the customers are. They also need to understand the benefits of providing good service and retaining good customers. They also need to able to manage those multiple customers, that is know the services they provide each of them with and how to do it well. One key element in managing the customers in many organizations, particularly business to business organization, is developing and maintaining good relationships with them. We will start with our first question. Customers, who are they? A customer is the recipient and often also a provider, that is co-producer in a service process. Thus we use the word customer to refer to all the individuals, units or even organizations to whom and often with whom an individual, unit or organization provides service. Take the simple example of booking a holiday. Let's imagine that you are booking a holiday for your friends or family using a travel agent. You are the customer of the travel agent and they provide you a service. Now just see this figure. Both parties are involved in the service, the activity of discussing point. Things flow both ways as you explain what you want and later make a payment. They provide us ideas and later provides us the tickets. You and your friends and families are also your customers. You are providing service to them by arranging the holiday for them. They discuss the options the travel agent provides, take your opinion, and provide you their decision or preferences. The tour operator is also the customer of the hotel and the airline. They make booking with the hotel and the airline, providing them with your details, the dates of the travel, the preferences, the hotel, the airline gives them the booking, which they then pass to you. At the start of the holiday, the airline provides you and your friend with service. They process you by gathering or batching up with the other passengers to get on the aircraft and transport you to your destination. You and your family and your friends do your bit by turning up on time and reporting to the gate of the flight and getting on and off the plane in orderly fashion. The airline is supposed to buy many internal services such as HR services, IT and training and so on. They also require the services of many other organizations to do this, such as airport, ground handling services, the aviation authority, catering services, etc. The hotel provides you the party with the range of services involving many internal service providers such as their restaurants and bar services, maybe housekeeping, laundry services, and external services such as fish suppliers, beverage suppliers, etc. You turn up in a hotel, provide information, and use the restaurant and the other facilities and so on. So here there are few important takeaways from this particular example. You can pause the video and you can look out for this particular example. So the few important things to take away from this example. First point, everyone in the diagram is a customer of somebody. You, maybe in the diagram, are the course, the customer, but you are also supplier or providing services to others. The service providers and your friends, family, they are your customers. Second point, some customers are individuals, some are units, and some are organizations. Third, service is usually two-way process. That is, things flow both ways. You provide information to your tour operator and your tour operator gives you a booking. In essence, both the parties are customers of each other as they both are recipients and the providers. Fourth important point, the services are delivered through a network. You can see in this particular figure, it is important to note that the service provider provided to you by many organizations working together and providing each with the services. Next point is there are internal service providers such as restaurants in the hotel, and also there are external service providers such as their beverages suppliers. Thus, there are both internal as well as external customers. The last point is different organizations uses different names to their customers. To the airline, you are a passenger. The tour operator, you are a client. To a particular hotel, you are a guest. So, customers, passengers, clients, and guests are the different organizations use different names. Thus, to reiterate, the word customer refers to all the individuals, units, or organizations to whom and often with whom an individual unit or organization provides service. Now, here we are going to classify the customers. So, we can classify our customers into several broad and overlapping categories, and these types can be external or internal customers, intermediate or end user customers, stakeholders, that is payers, beneficiaries, or participants, and valuable or not so valuable customers. So in this way we can classify the customers. So we will see each and every classification in detail. First we will start with external and internal customers. In many service sectors, particularly consumer services such as banks and restaurants, the customers are individuals or group of people external to the organizations who are receiving and often paying for the service. In many of these situations, there is a clear time connection in the sense of service that will be provided on the receipt of required price as in a fast food restaurant or retail store. These customers are sometimes referred to as users, end users, or consumers. They tend to be the people in mind when managers and employees talk about customers. However, when we talk about customers, we are referring to both external as well as internal customers, and much of the material here we are discussing is applied to both internal and external customers. The internal customers are individuals or group of individuals who are the part of the same organization but with a different unit of operation. For example, an accountancy department or personal department and the IT department all in their own way provide services to the other part of organization just as they are required to give the services from the rest of the operations. Then next is intermediaries or end users or consumers. One of the design issues under the debate for many service supply chains is the question of whether or not to use the intermediaries or middlemen who sell a product or service to an end consumer on behalf of one or more suppliers. Some financial services, for example, have recently removed the intermediary stage of an independent insurance broker to set up their own direct operations. They have done this largely to reduce the transaction cost for commodity type services such as car insurance, but also to gain the ownership of the end consumers. This has been possible to achieve as increasing consumer knowledge about the industry prices has forced companies and consumers alike to re-evaluate the worth of the broker network. Now we can take one example of case study of GSV software. The situation that many organizations face need to manage their direct customers, such as brokers or retailers, while at the same time being aware of the needs and end consumers or users. Therefore, they have to encourage the intermediaries to give desired services to their customers. In the theory, should be made provide perfect sense through a GSV software found. This is not always the straightforward. So you can read this GSV software case study from the book. As a global software vendor with a well established range of software products for developing desktop and laptops, GSV Software had developed a largely channel centric model to meet its broad range of customers. Technical service requirements, services, and service support are allied to specific software products and were delivered by third parties. GSV put most of the service and support efforts into selecting the right intermediaries to deal directly with its user base and also into providing any product training required to ensure that the intermediaries were effective. The advantage of this approach was the GST had a limited number of support relationships to deal with. For more updates and for more the further case study, you can read the book. So, stakeholders like payers, beneficiaries, or participants. This categorization explores the customer's extent to involvement with the service. In many services, the customer participating in the service expects benefit from the service and also is required to pay for it. In the case of restaurant, if there is a problem with food or the service, customers are aware of it because they participate in the service and care about the outcome because they are beneficiaries. Because they are also paying for the service, they are able to take the appropriate actions. In many service situations, for example, prisoners, the health, the public health services, and voluntary services, there may be a clear distinctive between the indeed conflict among the payers, beneficiaries, and participants. This is not the case of non-profit organizations or NGOs. In business to business services such as photocopier leasing, it is possible that the purchasing department may have cost reduction targets for its overall spend, which may conflict with the need for the high quality in the user function. However, the links between the purchasers and beneficiaries can become extremely difficult when we consider the public services. These are funded by taxpayers, but the budget is determined by the politicians, who supposedly represents the views and interests of their constitution. In the case of police service, the beneficiary is again the society at large, although the participants are criminals and offenders. So these participants may not see the actions of the police as a benefit, even though the most law-abiding citizens may annoyed when stopped by the police for what seems to them to be a trivial matter. This approach can be expanded. We can identify all the stakeholders of a service and understand their different perspective. Next type is valuable or not so valuable customers. The service marketing literature proposes that organizations prioritize service towards the customers who can create the most of the value for the organization. Given that any operation has finite resources, it would seem sensible to ensure that Any practitioners or prioritization safeguard the long-term business interest. The problem is that what it's meant to have value is not always clear. So there can be high value, there can be low value. We define a valuable customer as one that is either high value or valued. Note that we use the valuable rather than the term which is called as loyal. While some customers are loyal in the sense that they frequently uses the organization, they may also have other loyalties and may also not be very profitable to the or helpful to the organization. Now, high value means that the financial value of the customers over the long term is of the value to the organization. This links the idea of assessing the lifetime value of the customer. For organizations that deal with many relatively small in value transactions, it has been found useful to calculate the lifetime value, that is, the historic value plus extrapolated value of the customer over time. So, equipment related services have been used to this approach for so many years. For some years, since their customers understand the difference between the lifetime cost of the ownership as against the cost of acquisition. Indeed, it is common in some industries for companies to make a loss on the sale of the original equipment, knowing that 25% or 25 years of the spares and service contracts would ensure the long term profitability. High value customers are also those customers that tend to spend more per transaction than other customers, that is incremental value, and purchase additional services, that is a strategic value, and importantly, they may also act as an advocate for the organizations, encouraging or recommending others by word of mouth. For example, to use the service, that is social network value, they may also be prepared to pay premium prices for the service. Valued customer. Valued customers are those individuals who are positively disposed to the organization and thus relatively easy to deal with. They appear to they appear to appreciate the service and interactful, interact helpful and pleasantly with the employees. Valued customers are not only a pleasure deal with, they also can create financial value to for the organization. They could be involved in cost reduction by taking time to help the organization and staff. For example, clearing tables after use or reporting incorrectly working functioning equipment. They are also usually cheaper to service since it can be costly to recruit new customers into the organization. Valued customers can be involved in revenue generation by providing positive word of mouth advertisement and by encouraging others to use the support services. Valued customers are the supporters of the organization and are ready willingly to help the organization and to maintain improve its services. Next concept is customer segmentation and operational view. Marketing has long devoted attention to segmenting its customer. Market segmentation is traditionally based on the consumer characteristics. Thus, organization will focus on particular economic group or target or geographic region. Other marketing approaches will consider lifestyle, family circumstances, or the reasons why the customers buy a service. Clearly, a service operation manager must be aware of the emphasis behind the marketing approach adopted by the organization. Not only does it make the sense to the target marketing offers efforts by the people most likely to buy the service, But the market segmentation also helps operation managers design their facilities appropriately and provide the right service experiences and outcomes. A restaurant provides a simple example. If the restaurant is targeting couples for romantic dinner for two, the design of seating and ambience will rather different from a restaurant that considers family as their prime source of revenue. The type of food served and the way in which it's served, for example, speed, manner, and information provided, will be certainly different. In case of a family restaurant, easy to clean facilities with flexible seating will be required, together with value for money meals served efficiently. The romantic restaurants will require different furnishing, lighting, music, staff competencies, and food. Clearly, a wide range of decision flows from the initial identification of the customer group to be served. Some restaurants manage to adopt the changing needs, providing classical music and reasonably bright lighting for early evening family groups and more elderly dinner, moving to more unbit music and dimming the light for the younger couples in the evening as the evening processes. Customer types. Now there are several customer types. We believe that the operation managers and their staff need to develop an understanding of the nature of individual customers and their resultant behavior, particularly when these customers are direct recipients of their service delivery process and may in fact be the integral part of it. The nature of the customer could significantly influence the type of service provided, how they need to deal with the staff, and their potential impact on the other customers in operations. Possible categories of the customers classified by behavior or attitude could include the ally, the hostage, the anarchist, the patient, the tolerant, the intolerant, the victim, the terrorist, the incompetent, and the champion. We'll just briefly see one by one. But before that, we will start with the first term, the ally. The ally, these valued customers usually arrive in a positive mind frame, willing to help and give positive feedback to facilitate the services. The most useful ally is the customer whose opinion is respected by others. If the ally is happy, then the other customers will infer that the service must be good. Then next is hostage. These customers require service but may be locked in a particular service provider contractually. An example is customer who must have their car serviced by the dealer appointed by the manufacturer. The service may cost rather more, but if an approved dealer is not used, their warranty is invalid. These customers may not be the most positive in most positive moods, but will become very difficult whenever the service performance deteriorates. The next are anarchists. These customers dislike the rules and system. Indeed, notice suggesting that should and should not done with present of a challenge. It is tempting to let that the customers get away with not following the system, but it also may set up problems with the other customers who feel that they not been treated fairly. Next customers are the patients. The customers are very similar to the hostages and they are locked into the service. Example are the hospital patients or the students at the schools or university. These customers may be positively or positively oriented towards the organization and willing to submit themselves to the rules and regulation. However, unnecessary restrictions may turn them into a hostage or anarchist. Then tolerant. These customers may be passive always waiting patiently for the service providers to acknowledge their presence and deliver the services. In fact, they may be so patient that they become invisible to the service staff and most of the times get ignored. As a result, it may be dangerous to trade on their apparently goodwill. Next are intolerant. These customers are seldomly passive or patient and often cause stress and problems within the service for themselves. The service providers and the other customers, although initially they may be positively disposed to the organizations without careful handling, these people can easily turn into terrorists. What are victims? When someone goes wrong, something goes wrong in the service organization, some customers appear to attack bad luck. Some jobs seems to be dogged by ill future. Victims may react in a number of ways, perhaps blowing incidents up out of the proportion or alternately becoming resigned to their inevitable fate. Next are the terrorists. The terrorist is the customer who mount a damaging attack when you least expect it. An example might be the customer who declares their dissatisfaction loudly in a middle or crowded restaurant, having said earlier how good the food was. The incompetent. Frontline staff should give particular pay attention to these customers. Those are incompetent. It is possible that new customers may be confused by the organization's producers, and if not trained by staff, may find the experience threatening, with the result that they do not return. It is possible, of course, that some of the customers are incapable of being trained. Lastly, the champion. What all organizations want valued customers who are not only supportive of their staff and its service but helpfully participating in the process, but also who also wants to make a point of providing positive word of mouth about the organization and their services and about their staff. So these are the various types of customers. Now, what is creating alliances? Converting customers from the left quadrant into alliances, into the allies, is the easiest uh, of the task. The allies are the already positively disposed to the organization but require engaging in a service process. Providing information, good communication, and explanation, involving them into the process development through soliciting the feedbacks may easily convert these customers. So, this is how you can convert allies. The negatively disposed victims at the left bottom, left quadrant, may require counseling and support to them to turn them into allies. The risk here is that even they are considerably effort of victims can easily turn into the hostages or anarchists. Anarchists and terrorists are most difficult yet most important group of customers for the operations to deal with. So deselections, that is removal from the organization, may be the best way out. On the other hand, if these activists can be employed to the good organization by harassing their negative energy into the personal involvement in the organization and its support, they can make powerful allies or even champions for the organization and its cause. So this is explained in the figure. Now, next step is what are the benefits of retaining good customers. So a key task for some of the operation manager is retaining the valuable customers. It should be noted that retention may be of limited concern to some service organizations such as local government services, housing associations, police, charities, and health services, who may not be able to choose their customers or whose customers have no or little choice. These organizations have accept and deal with whoever come through the door. However, they still have to relationship with them and manage those customers as well as they can see. Retaining valuable customers for the organization that wish to retain their customers provides the significant benefits. In we can summary them as these are easy to deal with. They act as advocates and provide positive word of mouth advertisement. They assist in the service provisions. They reduce the operating cost. Because of them, the revenue increases. Help to organizations maintaining and improve its services. Do not place undue demand on the services. They generate long-term revenue streams, that is lifetime values, and they spend more than other customers. Also, they increase spending over time and may pay premium prices. A key problem in changing the emphasis or to retaining or building the relationship with the customer is that in many organizations do not have adequate means of either measuring retention and calculating the values of the loyal and valuable customers. For employees, for the few companies know the value of the loyal customers or the true cost of lost customers, or even worse, the cost of upset customers who stays. If organizations could calculate these values, they might be in a positive to make more accurate evaluations of investments designed to develop relationship with customers. What is measuring customer retentions? There are some simple measures of the customer relations, customer retentions to put alongside the sales or revenue figures. Retention, for example, may be assessed on the annual basis. For instance, by tracking the number of customers account still active during the year. In practice, of course, this is not always so straightforward. Retailer customers frequently shop at more than one store, continuing to make regular purchases in each. Some customers hold the several loyalty cards, undermining the very concept. Indeed, the studies into behaviorals of the supermarket customers have identified the large segments of promiscuous customers who switch loyalty to whichever provider is currently offering the best deal. In this case, the issue is more share of the wallet than the customer loyalty. Information system linked to the loyalty cards enable the retailers to track trends in spending patterns to assess the loyalty of the various customer segments. This is the trademark word, the net promoter score. One useful measure, though not without the detectors or detractors, is the net promoter score. This suggests that the organizations measure their customers' willingness to recommend the organizations or its services. The usual question asked here is how likely is that you would recommend us to your friend or colleague? This question is clearly aimed at the organizations for which retention is important. We would suggest that a good question to ask for customers of the organizations where the retention is not an issue, such as monopoly services, or where the customer retention is not desirable, maybe such as the fire or rescue services, is how likely is that you would speak highly of us. By measuring the answers on 0 to 10, that is extremely likely to a scale, the organization can calculate and track and compare with the other organizations. Their net promoter score, that is called as NPS, So NPS, that is Net Promoter Score, is calculated at the percentage of promoters minus the percentage of detractors. So here the promoters are those who are scoring between 9 and 10, and the detractors who's scoring the organization from 0 to 6. So calculating the lifetime value for the customer. Lifetime value of a customer of a particular interest of high volume consumer services, that is for two reasons. First, it provides a degree of motivation for personnel who may deal with the high number of short customers transaction each day. The customer who makes the regular purchases of approximately $4 or €4 may not seem that important in the grand scheme of the things, but this viewpoint might be changed if it equates the $100, or €1,000 annual spend multiplied by the expected loyalty lifetime in years. Calculating the lifetime values gives focus to various marketing activities. How managers develop the good customer relationships? It is important to note that there is a difference between customer loyalty and having a relationship with the customer. It is easy to confuse the two, particularly in high volume series delivered to mass consumer markets. For organizations such as train companies, mass transit systems, and even financial service providers, customers may be extremely loyal but not have a relationship with the organization. Managing the customer relationship is about establishing, maintaining, and enhancing the relationship with the customers for mutual benefits. The emphasis in a relationship marketing is on the requirement to develop the relationship with the individual customers, that is, one to one marketing, and with the groups of like minded people, affinity groups, rather than they see any and every service as one of the transaction. There are three types of customer relationship. So three main types of customer relationship. Firstly, there is a relationship between based on the portfolio of services or products frequently found in higher value operations. Secondly, there is a personal relationship created between an individual customer and the employee, particularly prevalent in low volume professional organizations. Thirdly, we also cover here temporary customer relationship, recognizing the transaction, one of natural of the many services. We will also cover the risk of CRM, customer relationship, and the mean of the managing the CRM. So first, again, in detail, we will start with portfolio relationships. Portfolio relationships involve the capture of the customer using a variety of products or services. Banks, for example, work hard to establish a relationship with their customers by selling and in order to sell multiple products such as current accounts, loans, house loans, insurance, and executor services. These providers these provides the customer with the benefits such as single point of contact for their service or product portfolio, discount for new service or product bought, or loyalty bonuses, etc. The downside for the customers who wish to switch is often the difficulty in untying themselves from the set of services or products. The benefits for the organizations are the portfolio relationship provider with higher value customers, a longer term revenue stream, opportunities to sell the other services or products to customers who are already engaged with the organization, and also valuable information from and about the customer base. Many service providers, such as retailers, airline, and restaurant chains actively promote the portfolio relationship and loyalty on existing services and products through loyalty schemes such as frequent flyer programmer or club cards for supermarkets. Most of these are in essence of discount schemes encouraging the customers to earn points by spending more money with a particular provider rather than the competition. Such providers are buying loyalty rather than building the relationships. However, the relationship can develop by holding information about the customer needs. For example, some hotels store information about their call holding customers so that these customers are provided with a room that meets their requirements. Customers may also gain certain privilege. Airline loyalty customers may be provided with access to executive log, free seat reservation, check cashing facilities, company newsletters, opportunities to participate in a special event, and opportunities to provide information to the organizations and so on. Now we will talk about the second part, that is personal relationship. Personal relationship exists in many professionals and low volume, high margin services where there is a time and value in developing one on one relationships with clients or customers. These relationships, often using the key account managers, create multi-layered or deep personal relationship with the customers. The objective of the service provider's part is to create a situation where the customer thinks of them when the customer next need the service or when planning to place more orders. The personal the personal B2B organizations, they are advantage on both sides. The providers get to know the customer's business well, and this leads to a more effective service with faster response. Because providers do not have go through the another development phase, many B2B services takes place over the weeks, months, or maybe few years. There are four key elements to a personal relationship between the service provider and the customer. These are communication, trust, intimacy, and rules. Communication: the extent to which there is a two-way communication, the ability to deliver a clear message, and the ability to listen carefully. Next is trust, the degree to which one partner depends on the work or recommendations of the other without seeking extra justification or collaboration. In some cases, the partner may commit the other to work without prior consultation. Third is intimacy, the extent to which each partner shares their plans, strategies, and profits. Rules, a mutual acceptance of how this particular relationship operates, what is acceptable and desirable, and what is not. Developing personal relationship often has significant operational implications. In the particular table here displayed on the screen, we compare two organizations. One a professional service, that is business to business, and the other a high volume customer service, that is business to customer. And we identify the issues that must deal with the operation managers. So as we can see from this table, there may be, you can just pause the video, you can read all the table information, and you can find that the considerable resources implications in adopting an approach based on the broadening the relationship between the customer and provider. So on the basis of communication, trust, intimacy, and rules, again you can pause and you can read. So some of the implications can be: processes and activities become less well defined and harder to predict. Capacity management is less precise and efficiency goals become harder to achieve. Processes must be more flexible in order to meet requirements that are ill-defined at the start of the relationship, and staff will require a different set of competencies. Now we will talk about the temporary customer relationships. High volume customer or consumer services often require the formation of temporary relationships where the customer connections are made quickly. Many sales processes depend on the ability of a salesperson to establish a common grounded with the prospective customer. When the customer is buying something that cannot be readily accessed, part of the purchasing process may include a conscious or unconscious assessment of the competency and honesty of the organization's representative. A combination of perceived risk and lack of knowledge on the customer's part will mean that the possibility of a relationship will increase given the need of reassurance on the customer's part. Examples might include purchasing a used car or a personal pension, where the customer is often incapable of making a loyalty informed decisions. Risk and relationships. There is often a link between customers' perceived risk in purchasing or using the service and their desire for a personal relationship with the provider. You can see this in table number 2, where the customers does not feel that there is much risk either in making the purchase or in receiving the service. There may be limited opportunity for relationship building. The majority of the supermarket customers probably do not have any depth relationship with the Tesco or Walmart, though they may have preferences as to which store they shop in. The reluctance on the part of the supermarket customers to build a meaningful relationship with Tesco and Walmart only applies, of course, when things are going well. Where there is a strong personal relationship in situations where the customer feel about the significant risk, the emotional switching cost of customers are high. It is likely that these customers will not move unless the relationship is significantly damaged in some way. As example of service of this type is a restaurant who may have both a particular expertise and intimate knowledge of the client's company and markets. These relationships are most common in professional services or B2B services. CRM, Customer Relationship Management. Customer relationship management, that is CRM, is a term given to the management of customer relationship in a high volume customer service with the objectives of growing a more profitable business and trying to form some closer understanding of the needs and individuals customers. The essential differences between CRM and other approaches to the customer retention is the identification and enhancement of customer relationship is facilitated by technology. CRM attempts to integrate the many communication channels between an organization's units and its customers. For example, recording information about the customer preferences and then using the information to develop the strengthen the relationship between the profitability of the customers. The aim of CRM is to collect the data from all parts of the organization to enable tackling and analysis of the single customer relationship, as well as an identification of more general trends. To You can take one example, like until recently it was possible that a customer of a financial service company would have a number of products like mortgage, that is house loan, saving accounts and insurance, etc. Each of these products would be handled by separate parts of the business. With no knowledge of the others, as a result, customers rarely felt that they had a relationship with the company. Now we will see how can managers develop good business relationship. The work of the industrial marketing and purchasing, that is IMP group, over the last 50 years has demonstrated that building business relationship is different to building the customer relationship. Through the business relationship will involve many personal relationships. In essence, business markets are often made up of small number of powerful customers who are seeking solutions to the problems. Many business relationships are close, complex and long-term, and each relationship is a part of network of relationships. Others are short-term and adversarial in nature. The drivers for improving B2B relationships include gain in the market share, then marginal growth, improved productivity, reduced cost base, portfolio rebalancing, and acquisition of intellectual property rights, that is IPR, or any technology. The most frequently cited benefits arising from improved business relationships are the growth, then shift in behavior, increased trust, fruitful cooperation, then long-term differentiation, improved working patterns, enhanced capacity of the problem solutions, and so on. Next is forms of business relationships. Business relationships exist in many forms. Some of them are complex and long-term, often forming a part of wider network relationships. Others are short-term, some are close and collaborative, while others can be contract-driven and quite uh, adversarial in nature. Some of the most frequent encountered business relationships are contract partnerships, then strategic alliances, uh, partnering, and networks and joint ventures. So we will just see one by one. First is contracts. Contracts are often non-equity agreements specifying the cooperative contributions and powers of each partners, where greater power usually lies with the purchasing partners. Next is partnership, sometimes also referred as alliances, may be contractual or informal and tend to imply a parity type relationship built on equal input of both partners will share the goals and for the mutual benefits. Strategic alliances, sometimes also referred to as the global alliances, may be voluntary arrangements between the firms involving the exchange, sharing, and co-development of products, technologies, or services. Though they tend to exist as asymmetric relationships since they often involve one party acquiring and a partial stake in the other. Next is partnering, that is concerning with development of close relationship between the partners is an environmental of openness and trust. Next is joint ventures. Joint ventures are one form of alliances that involve the partners creating a new separate body or subsidiaries jointly owned to exploit a particular opportunity. Networks are structures and interconnecting partnerships, alliances, and joint ventures. which can be take place in many different forms. So these are various forms of business relationships. Importantly, all the organizations or inter-organizational relationships are created, then developed and influenced by the mindset of behaviors of a small number of individuals who form and hold the relationships by their words and actions. Typically, as these players change, so can nature of their relationships also changes. Next is transactional strategic relationships. Research and consultancy work has shown that through the international inter-organizational relationships exist in many forms. There are only two forms of relationship. One is transactional and strategic, each with their own distinct set of characteristics. Both types are valid, though the differences are commonly misunderstood. The important point here is to remember that the two types need to be managed and measured quite differently. The key characteristics of these two types are summarized here: transactional types and the strategic type. Typically, any one organization is likely to have only one small number of truly strategic relationships. So, for many managers, the challenge is how to become the best they can be the transactional type. Now, we will talk about measuring business relationships. Among the questions frequently considered by managers involving the inter-organizational relationships are: where is the relationship currently? Why is it like that? What is the best relationship might be? What might need to change to get there? How should we monitor the progress? So these questions highlights an area that is the key concern of operation managers: how to access and measure the relationships. Regular assessment of a customer relationship is the prerequisite of the conscious, purposeful intervention in it. The assessment is, in particular, valuable when any major changes in the relationship is being considered, such as developing or adopting an offering or investing an operational capability for the relationship. Yet surprisingly, given its importance, measurement of relationship is poorly understood. For the operational perspective, managers need to access and measure the relationships to understand where the deficiencies are, in order to work on them with their suppliers or partners. Measurement of existing relationship will also influence decisions about which the patterns to use in the near future. Assessing the transactional relationships. Managing high contractual transactional relationships is often fraught with difficulty. This is particularly true where an aspect of customer's business has been outsourced to a specialist provider. Examples lie in the area of facility management or information technology support. So, measurement of these transactional relationships tends to concern almost entirely with financial and hard measures of operational performances, such as price and on-time completion or delivery quality, and is frequently defined by the service level agreements, that is SLAs, which are often imposed by the supplier or the purchaser. Assessing the strategic relationships. As a part of strategic relationships, partner organizations are trying to work closely together in a long-term relationship with mutual benefits in mind. will wish to access the nature or strength of the relationship and how they might together develop it. Though many operation managers would claim that it is difficult, if not possible, to measure some of the softer, often more personal characteristics in a relationship, such as attitude, behavior, and trust. It is usually these softer characteristics that are essential for the success of the relationship. Building the interpersonal relationship with the businesses. Enhancing the business relationship can easily be overlooked by organizations that are operationally focused and busy delivering the services, and also by organizations at the other extreme, which are market focused and intent on increasing their customer base. Interpersonal business relationships can be established and enhanced in four key ways that is shown on the display. Going the extra mile, providing higher than expected levels of service on a current project, such as providing enhanced documentation, analyze, explanation, or even presentations, and greater accessibility to staff. Then increasing the amount of client contact, making frequent visits on telephone calls, then creating contracts at a different level of organization, scheduling meeting and feedback development sessions, building the business relationships, putting on special seminars for clients, helping them make other contracts, assisting and benchmarking, sending useful articles, even referring business to the clients. Lastly, building a social relationship, providing social activities and tickets for events, remembering personal anniversaries, and so on. So now we are moving towards the last part, that is, we'll just summarize whatever we have learned in today's session. So first point is we have learned customers. Who are they? So customer is the recipient and often also a provider or co-producer in a service process. The word customer refers to all the individuals, units, or even organizations to whom and often with whom an individual or unit or organizations provide service. Customers may be external, internal, intermediaries, end users, stakeholders, payers, beneficiaries, participants, and value or non-valuable customers. Operation managers need to develop an understanding of the nature of individual customers and the customer's likely attitude and behavior. Operation categories customer include the ally, the hostage, the anarchist, the patient, the tolerant, the intolerant, the victim, the terrorist, the incompetent, and the champion. Next, we learn that what are the benefits of retaining good customers. That was one of our objective. So we have learned a key task of operation manager is retaining valuable customers. The benefits of retaining valuable customers for those organizations that wish to do include increased revenues, reduced costs, positive word of mouth recommendations, and long-term revenue streams. Retentions can be measured in various ways, including the number of active accounts, willingness to recommend. We have seen the concept of Net Promoter Score, that is NPS, or by calculating lifetime values. Next, we have learned how can managers develop good relationship or good customer relationship, that is B2C services. So managing the customer relationship is about establishing, maintaining, and enhancing relationships with the customers for mutual benefits. There are three main forms of customer relationships: relationships based on the portfolio of services, frequently found in higher volume operational personals relationships created between an individual customer and an employee, particularly prevalent in low volume professional organizations, temporary relationships which recognize the transaction one of nature of many services. How can managers develop good customer relationships? Will continue. So there is often a link between customers' perceived risk in purchasing or using the service and their desire for a type of relationship with the provider. CRM is used by some high volume consumer services to try to grow more profitable business by better understanding the needs of the individual customers. CRM attempts to integrate the many communication channels between the organization's units and its customers. How the managers develop good business relationships, that is B2B services. Building business relationships can be different by building many customer relationships. Business markets often comprise a small number of powerful customers who are seeking solutions to problems. Many business relationships are close, complex, and long-term, and each relationship is a part of network of relationships. Others are short-term and adversarial in nature. There are many types of business enterprises such as contract, partnerships, alliances, strategic or global alliances, partnering, joint ventures, and networks. Each of these encompasses slightly differing from the relationships. Measuring the business relationship is the key to improvement. SLAs, we have seen the strategic level agreements are often used in contractual transactional relationships. Strategic relationships require jointly developed metrics. Key account management is useful for organizations with a small number of strategic partners, and building personal relationships underpins many business relationships. Discussion questions for the students. First, you can read: how would you classify yourself and your colleague or friend in terms of your customer attitude in a particular service? Could everyone be converted into allies? And if so, how? Calculate your lifetime value for three service organizations which you use. For example, supermarket or clothing retailer or music download website or any bank. What are the problems in assessing the lifetime values? Third question is assess the personal relationships you have with a professional service provider, such a university lecturer, doctor, counselor, then financial advisor. How well is the relationship managed? Then there are few questions for managers as well. So is your organization pursuing a relationship approach? If this, what your customer desire? To what extent do your processes take into account the differing needs of your target customer segments? How important is customer retention to your business? If so, what is your retention rate and how could it be improved? And last, how do